Welcome to Every New Day, and this is an ENDtv News special report regarding Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Points USA, who was assassinated during an outdoor event at the Utah Valley University. New evidence has emerged, and a suspect has been apprehended by the authorities. We're going to get into the details and the facts, and then later on, I want to give my own take on this and on the broader topic in regards to political violence in our current culture today. On September the 10th of this year, Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck while speaking at Utah Valley University during one of his events. The shot was fired from a rooftop at the Low C Center, about 125 to 200 yards away. That's between 150 and 182 meters. It was a bolt-action rifle that was later recovered, and the suspect, who was apprehended some days later, was 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who is now in custody. Investigators have said this was a planned attack. However, some question whether this is the case.
According to Utah's governor, Robinson's father confronted him after seeing the video and the images and told his son to turn himself in. Robinson was then transported overnight and booked into jail just before 2 a.m. Friday morning, 12 miles from the scene of Kirk's shooting.
Video and CCTV footage show a figure on the roof just before the shot was made, and that same figure fleeing from the roof and jumping off shortly after the shot was fired. In the immediate aftermath, two elderly men were detained. One, a George Zinn, who claimed at a moment that he had shot Charlie Kirk, but authorities clarified he was not the shooter and was later charged with obstruction. The other man was also released after questioning. One of the most striking elements of this case have been the bullet casings that were recovered with inscriptions. Messages on the casings included, "Hey fascist, catch," or notices, bulges, "Oh, what's this?" and references to Bella Ciao, a popular Italian anti-fascist song. Some appear meme-based or internet culture references. Investigators say the inscriptions may help trace the motive or the connections, and there is somewhat of a debate currently going on as to what Robinson's ideological motives were. Authorities recovered these casings along with a Mauser .30-06 bolt-action rifle believed to be the murder weapon, which was discovered some distance away from the crime scene. The weapon was not found at the rooftop. Instead, investigators located the bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel in a wooded area near the campus after the suspect fled. Now, this is interesting because with the CCTV footage that we have shown and will show again here, you can see Robinson climbing off the rooftop without a rifle, meaning that he either left it on the rooftop, which was not the case, or he had disassembled it. So it does seem a bit odd why he would reassemble the rifle and leave it in a wooded area to be found. Also, one spent casing was still in the chamber, and there were unused rounds as well. The manner and location of the weapon have raised questions. Why wrap it? And why was it hidden in that area? And how was it moved from the rooftop, as we've just discussed, to the woods without detection? Authorities soon after arrested Tyler Robinson 2 days later. He actually turned himself in. According to reports, digital communications, including messages to a roommate or family member, family interviews, and those engravings on the bullet casings are central to determining the motive.
When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in that conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU.
Robinson allegedly expressed opposition to Kirk's views, and there are suggestions the inscriptions on the casings reflect political or ideological anger, as well as referencing internet meme culture. At this current time, there has been a lot of discussion online, as is the norm. Many have posited that Robinson was a left-wing fanatic due to the references, and also that he was somewhat of a black sheep in his family. His family was conservative, they were pro-Trump, they were pro-Second Amendment, in favor of gun rights. So there has been conflicted stories from the mainstream media in regards to stating at first that he was a conservative, right-wing, then later discovering that he may have had a girlfriend, or due to his exposure at the university, he was much more inclined towards left-wing ideals and values. However, again, we are not stating that he was one or the other. Information is still coming out gradually about his motives. After the incident, videos spread showing the rooftop figure. The moment of impact, which was shocking that it was released, obviously the event was being filmed. Therefore, many people on social media watched as Charlie Kirk was murdered in broad daylight, as well as the flight of the suspect from the murder scene. There were many other reports, images spread around the internet, on X, etc., that were unverified, and platforms struggled to remove the graphic and sensitive footage of Charlie Kirk's murder. These videos also fed into the speculation around the engravings on the bullet casings and the location of the weapon. Misinformation soon followed after the incident, with early claims conflating those who were detained as the shooter, which were those two elderly men in the audience that I mentioned before. People circulated incorrect names and edited clips. Fact-checking outlets and the police made clarifications. The inscriptions on the bullet casings were real, but the interpretations vary. Rumors about the motive, whether political, ideological, or internet culture, are still under investigation. The assassination prompted widespread public outcry. Political leaders condemned the act on both sides of the political spectrum. Supporters of Kirk rallied, and discussions about free speech, campus safety, ideological polarization have intensified. Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, issued statements promising to continue his work. The combination of the inscriptions, the weapon recovery, and the strange location where the gun was uncovered have added fuel to the public debate. Charlie Kirk is survived by his wife, Erica, and two young children, ages 1 and 3. He was a political commentator and activist, and a strong proponent in helping Donald Trump in his second campaign to achieve the presidency. Charlie Kirk may have said things that maybe not everyone agreed with, but the one thing I think we can all agree was that he was a champion for dialogue and freedom of speech. He persevered to have open dialogue in campuses across the United States of America and to bring forward the marketplace of ideas where they could be exchanged. This case is still evolving, and there are key things to still watch for: the full forensic reports on the casings, the prints and DNA, the court filings that may reveal the motive or planning. So there's plenty more that will surface over the next coming days and weeks. However, I want to add my own thoughts to this. I watched Charlie Kirk die online. And I feel that the reason that this has been getting so much more spotlight is because people were shocked to see how, in fact, when a human is murdered, it's not remarkable. It's not Hollywood. It's not theatrical. It is, in fact, surreal, which is what most people stated after the shock of watching it. And that's because people have become desensitized. They don't realize that this was not only just a content creator, a figurehead in the conservative movement. This was a husband, a father, but more importantly, this was a human being who did not deserve to be murdered, especially in front of his family, who were present at the time of his unfortunate demise. But this is not the only case. There have been a multitude of cases over the last few years where we're seeing political violence escalate. On August the 22nd, Irina Zaratruska, a Ukrainian refugee, was stabbed to death at Charlotte Light Rail Station. The suspect was a repeat offender. The case raised, obviously, safety and refugee protection concerns. There was also on June the 14th, the Minnesota legislators, a coordinated shooting at the homes of Democratic state legislators, Representative Melissa Hordman and husband, who were killed, and Senator John Hoffman and wife, who were wounded. April 13th of this year, Governor Josh Shapiro, an intruder, scaled the fence at the governor's residence and threw Molotov cocktails and set parts of the home on fire while Shapiro's family was inside. No injuries, however, and the suspect was arrested. And let's not forget, of course, the two attempts at the now sitting President Donald Trump to assassinate him, which in the first attempt murdered an innocent bystander, a father who was protecting his family, and he was just attending a rally, which he had all the right to do. Also, Paul Pelosi, the husband of then Speaker Nancy Pelosi, October the 28th, an intruder broke into Pelosi's home and assaulted him with a hammer. The attacker said he sought to capture Nancy Pelosi. May 2023, Representative Jerry Connolly's staff. A man entered Connolly's district office with a baseball bat and attacked staffers. We can go on, but the point I'm trying to make here is this isn't just a case of left or right. It's happening. And I hate to say that this is something that bears the burden on top of the rhetoric. Everyone needs to carry the burden here on what's been going on, because we're focusing way too much on the differences, and we're seeing this cult-like mindset due to echo chambers. And it is disturbing and horrific, to say the least. I do believe that the mainstream media outlets have some accountability, as well as our political establishment, those who are our leaders. But more so are the so-called social media platforms, which have enabled a lot of this vitriolic back and forth between those who align themselves to the left or to the right. Because you see, when you continuously refer to someone or something as a threat to democracy, as being evil, it will eventually affect a minority, which are, at this moment in time, we see, and this is a growing development, of emotionally and mentally unstable people who become absorbed by social media, absorbed by what they watch, and they lose all sight of determining what is real and what is fact. The other problem here is that after the incident of Charlie Kirk being murdered, a lot of people took to going online to celebrate, making light of it, making jokes. And then you had also a lot of other people who rallied behind Charlie, who now are also provoking that, well, this is war now. This is the problem. The problem is, now is not a time to start attacking one another. A man just lost his life, a human being who was murdered. And I was brought up with the value that if you have nothing good to say, then don't say anything at all. Obviously, there are going to be people who didn't like him, who didn't agree with him, and that's fine. When the Queen of England died, of course she died of natural causes, I also saw people making light of it and joking around. I didn't. And I have previously been a major critic of the royal family, but I didn't feel it was right to. What does that say about me as a person if I lower my standards and values? We need to do better. And we need to be better, because the youth is impressionable. They're consuming hatred, which is perpetuated by the influence of these echo chambers of social media, the mainstream media, and also some political leaders.
I was closer than any of the students, closer than maybe one security guard between him and I. And I heard the pop, and I knew immediately it was a gunshot. And as soon as I thought that was a gunshot, I saw Charlie's neck and the blood, and I just knew instantly that there was no chance that he was going to survive. I saw a Facebook post from someone that they were at the event too, and a man from England commented that he was glad, and now that'll shut him up, and now he can't talk anymore. And that kind of hatred and that kind of vile attitude can't exist in society.
I've also had the experience, unfortunately, of being labeled as some of the most horrendous things, which are just simply untrue, as well as associates of mine, simply because of a difference of opinion or because someone disagreed. And you know, the problem is that this eventually will escalate and lead to this type of thing, and it is not okay. And those who think it is okay, they are part of the problem. We should be able to discuss maturely. We should be able to exchange ideas and maybe disagree and agree without resorting to name calling, without resorting to division. Part of the main purpose I and my team helped set up ENDtv was because we wanted to make a difference in light of the current hyperpolarization that there was already in social media and new media. We wanted to be a humane and rational voice without pitting sides against one another or picking sides. And this, I believe, goes further than beyond just the murder of Charlie Kirk, but we see the same disconnectedness and desensitized reaction also with conflicts and wars. As human beings, we've come so far, and yet we have so much still to learn and do better, and it's not good enough. People are already disconnected enough, and increasingly we find an intolerant society. Add that the current vitriolic political environment and the division within the political spectrum, regardless religion, ideology, whatever. It is getting more and more worrisome. But I think the way forward is that we should, as people, rational-minded people, focus on a common dialogue. Let's build on what we share in common, what we have in common, and let's minimize what divides us and try to emphasize that which unites us. That is what we endeavor and what I believe is the best going forward. We need to do better. We need to be better. And be safe. Take care of one another. Share your comments, your thoughts. We'll see you in the next video.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.